classroom activities with you in your school, but I'm out here today with Brent. I wanted to tell you what this is. This is a microphone and a speaker so that we can hear you guys and you can hear us. So when you see us carrying this around, that's what we're doing. So I'm here with Brent Renner, and he's a farmer down by Clemmy, and I'm going to actually let him just tell you what's going on here, what we're doing. He'll kind of give you an idea where we are in relation to the school. And when we get in the combine, we'll give you guys a chance to ask some questions, okay?
Hi, kids.
Hi.
Peace. So, as Brenda told you, I'm Brent Renner. I farm about 4 miles south and about 4 miles east of Clemmy, east of Garner, where your school is at. So we're 4 miles east of Clemmy. And today we're going to try to start picking some corn. We had a slow start this morning because of the snow last night that we got. And when it snows, it accumulates on the plants of corn, and then it will get stuck in our combine and not allow the combine to separate the grain from the ear of corn and the stalk and the plant mass and all that. So we are hoping that we've had enough sunshine to melt the snow and get started combining some corn. And when we get up in the combine, you'll see how the head works, and then hopefully we'll have enough time to show you how the combine dumps corn into that tractor right there with a wagon behind it that catches it on the go. So I think if that's good enough of a start, we'll get in the cab and go. Is that right, Brenda? Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, kids, thanks for being patient with me there. So now that we're running, I can explain to you what's going on here. This is an 8-row corn head, so there's 8 rows of corn that are getting pulled into each individual unit, and there are 2 rollers on each side of the stalk that grab and pull the stalk down, and there's plates that strip the ear of corn. That's the orange things that you can see bouncing around in there. It strips the ear off the plant and takes the corn into the machine through this throat that's directly below my feet and our cab here. And there's what they call a rotor inside this combine that kind of tumbles the corn ears around in a circle, and the corn falls off the cob through a grate, and then there's a shaker pan underneath the rotor that catches the corn and shakes all the fine stuff out of it and drops it through another pan, and an auger will take it from clear at the bottom of the combine underneath up to the top behind me, which is our grain bin. So you can see the corn coming into the grain bin back there. It's kind of like a little avalanche. The farm that we're on right now is 160 acres. There's only 40 acres left to combine. We've been picking away at this one in between our soybeans for about a week and a half now. We're hoping to finish it today. And to give you guys an idea of how big a farm this is, an acre equals about a football field. So this is about 160 football fields out here. So, here's one monitor. I've got 2 monitors here. This is the combine operation monitor. It will tell me if anything's wrong in this little picture. If something isn't working the way it's supposed to, it will flash red and beep at me. This tells us what our engine speed is. That rotor that I was telling you about that separates the corn from the cob, that's how fast that's spinning. The fan is what blows air across the grain to blow out all the fines and have clean grain come out the back. This is what the farm is yielding right now. I don't know that that's perfectly calibrated, but that's how many bushels per acre it's yielding at the moment. And see, once in a while it will tell me that something's not quite right. That's not a big deal. I'll ignore that. This is a little monitor here that tells me I'm engaged to my auto steer. If you notice when Brendan pulls back, I don't have my hands on the steering wheel at the moment. The combine is kind of steering itself. There are sensors on one of the snoots on the corn head that keep the combine in between the rows so I don't have to steer. That gives me the opportunity to focus on making adjustments on the go, and if we get a bin full of corn, I can dump the corn while I'm combining on that tractor and wagon that we showed you earlier. And then last, there's a monitor clear up here that shows what the whole farm is doing for yield. It gives me a pretty colored map and shows me what's yielding good and what's not yielding as good, so that this winter, when I'm done with harvest and all the other operations that we need to do and the snow starts to fly, I can sit down in my office with all of these maps and make management decisions for next year to see if we can't increase production on these spots that don't have quite as many bushels per acre as others. We're going about 3.5 or 4 mile an hour is all we can go. It can be a long, slow process, especially when we have the weather that we've had here lately. It's been extremely cold and wet all fall, which not only makes it difficult on field conditions, but it also makes it more difficult to dry this corn down. So when this corn gets harvested, we'll take it back to my farm, and it needs to run through a corn dryer to get moisture from what we're harvesting now is about 20%. Before I can comfortably store that corn and not be concerned about it going out of condition over the winter, I need to get that down to about 15.5. So that's what a corn dryer does. Okay, so I'm gonna stick my auger out off to the left. Brenda's gonna try to get a picture of that coming out, and that's my dad in the tractor and the grain cart, and we're gonna dump some corn as we picked in front of me here. We're gonna dump some of the harvested corn out of my bin into that wagon. So now, we're dumping corn into this tractor. There's a lot of stuff going on here that's still human interaction. I got to be able to kind of communicate with my dad so that we're on the same page of when to stop and go and all that stuff. But what's crazy is, as much technology as I just showed you, there's even newer and better stuff coming out all the time. And there are, right now, in the state of Iowa, tractors and grain carts that don't need a person operating them, because electronically and via GPS, they can communicate with the combine and drive themselves. So there's lots of new and exciting things happening all the time in our agriculture industry when it comes to technology. It's pretty crazy.
That's one of the things that can really slow down harvest for some farmers. If you don't have anybody to drive grain cart for you, or the semis, or haul the corn, if you're just kind of doing all of that on your own, it takes a lot longer. So you can imagine what a benefit that is for them to be able to have those automated things that can help them out more. Okay, we asked if anybody wants to ask questions.
Yeah, I'm ready for questions. If anybody wants to start asking questions.
What is the highest amount of corn heads you can have on the front of the combine?
Great question. So I'm aware of a 16-row, 30-inch. So it's got a lot to do with spacing. This is a 30-inch spaced corn head. So I'm aware of a 16-row, 30-inch. That'd be twice this width, guys, just to give you an idea of how much that is.
Good question.
There are some, hold on a second, I'm off a row. Yeah, hold that, sorry.
That's okay.
There are some that I've heard of that are 20-some rows, but usually those are like 20-inch or 22-inch spacing, which a lot of times will mean it's no wider than a 16-row 30-inch, but more rows on that width.
How much corn can you haul?
Depending on what the corn yields, my dad's taking back about 600 or 700 bushel per dump. It takes him at least twice to fill a semi, because a semi holds about 1,000 bushels.
And a bushel is about the size of a laundry basket.
Did you catch that? You know, that's the best way to think of a bushel, is about a laundry basket full of this orange corn.
Like, what products do you give the corn to?
Okay, so our corn is primarily used for animal feed. Mostly hogs and chickens. It gets ground into a ground feed that's fed to those animals. It also gets used pretty extensively in our area for ethanol. Is it possible that some of my corn ends up coming back to the farm as feed? Yeah, but not in a very big amount.
How long do you combine?
A tough question. So during the day, I'll combine as long as I have to get a bin at home full of wet corn so that the dryer can dry the corn all night while I sleep. Sometimes, we very often put in 12 to 16-hour days. And if I got another place to go with corn, I'll work even longer than that if I have to. Now, when you say how long do you combine for in a season, hopefully we can get done with what we need to do in about a month and a half. But depending on Mother Nature and the weather that we're given, we may not be able to get it all done. We have had a difficult year growing season-wise. We were late planted, and it seemed like we were about a month behind all year long.
Okay, we have a line here of some questions that still need to get asked. Okay, go ahead.
Do you have to have corn heads on combines?
So if we're going to harvest corn, yes, we need a corn head. If we harvest soybeans, that's a whole different type of head that cuts and takes the entire plant into the machine. And it doesn't strip the stalk plant of the pods. It harvests the entire plant. But that looks completely different.
How fast can a tractor go?
Tractors can go about 25 mile an hour down the road. In the field, we don't usually get over 5 or 6 mile an hour.
How much corn can you bring home?
We have on our farm about enough storage to hold 200,000 bushel. So that's 200,000 laundry baskets. It's a lot of corn. And most of my corn then goes to Clemmy to a feed mill that gets ground into food for pigs, chickens, and sometimes cattle.
Brent, how long has your family been farming?
Oh, great question. So my grandpa and great grandpa moved to Iowa from Nebraska in the 30s during the Dust Bowl. They were in Nebraska and it was so dry that they couldn't raise a crop. So they moved to northern Iowa, and I really don't know if my great-great-grandpa farmed too. Back then everybody farmed at least a little. That's how you survived. You raised your own food. So our family's been here since the 30s in north central Iowa. My grandpa started as a hired man. Obviously when they moved from Nebraska, he had nothing but what he brought with him. And I think he did have some animals that he brought with him, but no land. And slowly but surely, he worked as a hired man for other larger farmers and was able to get started on his own.
Do you work all day?
Yeah. Yesterday, I was up at 4 o'clock yesterday morning, and I didn't get home till about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I had a big day yesterday. I was happy to get rest. And we didn't get started this morning until about 8 or 9 o'clock. So,
How long have you been farming?
I've been farming for about 20 years on my own. I feel like it in most. I'm 42 years old, and you know we helped my dad and uncle farm when I was really young. I've been doing this for 35 years. But.
Do you use John Deere or do you use red and blue equipment?
We have mostly red equipment here. I've got a few oddballs, but nothing John Deere as we speak. But I'm not one of those people that is married to any kind of brand. I try to keep my options open when it comes time to trade into equipment. I think they all have their benefits, and they also all have their troubles. So,
If you didn't feel good, would you still go harvest?
it's a great question, and unfortunately, a lot of times, yes, we do. If it's fit to go harvest, I try to overcome not feeling great. That's why I get a little bit ornery with my kids when they say they're too sick to go to school, because I usually just come back with, you know what, I don't always feel great either, but I still go to work, so. But we have to kind of keep an eye on our health, because it can be stressful, and a lot of stress isn't healthy, so you got to take care of yourself too.
Brent, last question. What's your favorite part about farming?
Watching things grow. Whether it's animals or plants, I really enjoy being outside and watching things grow and trying to help things grow. That's the most enjoyable part of what I do. It can also be extremely frustrating at times when things don't grow the way they want them to, but for the most part, it's a joy to do this.
Boys and girls, what do we say to Brent Renner? Brent, you're a hard worker, and we appreciate you taking the time to share with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.